This is the Oz Report for Saturday, June 4th, 2022, even though it's already past midnight. That's how long it took us to jump into the Oz Report today. But let's jump in here. So let's start with RMT or RMT adjacent items. Again, Plex, we talked about this last week. The infinite rally that was triggered by a bunch of factors, but most recently through the sub-price increase, it finally ended a little bit, right? I said last week, I think that 3.5 million would be a likely equilibrium price for the current market. We're now at 3.6. The buy price is at 3.42 in the forge, and so we saw the short-term moving average break through the long-term moving average, and that's typically an indicator of a trend reversal. And so right now at least the upward trend is broken, and Plex seems to be correcting itself a little bit. I would stick with the 3.5 million as a current equilibrium price. That just makes sense in the current environment, based on the amount of sub-price increases and all the other factors that are impacting the Plex price. Having said that, mentioned this earlier on the stream and analyzed it in more detail. If you can go back and watch that stream if you want to discuss this in more detail. But large skill injectors, they were underpriced. If you look at the skill farming profit per account, which is currently at -1 billion if you're not taking advantage of any sales, large skill injectors had to increase in price, right? Losing my voice already. Large skill injectors, they had to catch up in price because the profit on skill farming or the loss was just too big, and so that's what we're seeing now. As you would expect it, we're now up to 765 million in large skill injectors in the forge, and that's big. I think we're nearing we're nearing what I would expect it to be. I think it's going to rise a little bit more. I think maybe 770, 780 is a good target price for large skill injectors in the current environment. At that point, I will think about selling my stockpiles. Skill extractors, we had a sale going on that now has ended. That sale, it really only it fizzled pretty quickly. It dropped prices by a tiny bit for a few days, but then it immediately started rising again. So that sale was not enough to impact skill extractor prices. This is another reason why skill farming is so unprofitable right now, because skill extractors are so expensive right now, and that sale couldn't change it. Now let's I brought a little bit of a different structure this week to the Oz Report, and that is we're going to look at the biggest losers of the week and the biggest winners of the week, and the items that are short on supply, right? This is just something I'm going to try. The biggest losers of the week, and this is only items that have over 5 billion in trade volume, right? So anything that is very, very significant in the market, right? I'm only looking at significant items. And what you immediately see is there's a ton of significant moon materials that have dropped by more than 15%. All of the items in here have dropped more than 15% in median median daily price. So cadmium, cobalt, platinum, titanium, and even derivatives like titanium carbide, they all dropped more than 15%. And that is just an indicator of the initial rally that Siege Green brought about, and the initial excitement has died down. And now what people are doing is they are starting to dump their stockpiles onto the market. And I do believe that there are massive stockpiles of moon materials out there from the last two years of people scrounging for things to do, and a lot of people resorting to moon mining as one way of making ISK. And now the market is just oversupplied, and we see that after the short rally in this very, very quick turnaround and the market dropping again. Auto integrity preservation seal is one of those components that had already halved in price in the last few weeks based on the siege green impacts. This is one of the components that have a big impact on faction ship and capital pricing, and this dropped even more. And the reason it dropped even more is because if you think of what it's made of, bacteria, protein, and reinforced carbon fiber, which is a reaction from moon material, all of these items have gotten even cheaper. And the reason for that is that these are PI items, right? These are PI items, bacteria and proteins, and so not only did the amount decrease that you needed to build these ships, but that in itself also reduced the demand on bacteria and protein. So you need less of the component needs less bacteria and protein, and so that supply is just not there. So the prices have basically crashed for bacteria and protein, and reinforced carbon fiber has just benefited now in this last week from the dropping moon prices. And so this right here means that the auto integrity preservation seal got even cheaper than it was before. It's now trading at an incredible 40,000 a unit, and that is just making faction ships very, very, very cheap, or at least a lot of them. Right? Now, Senti A-type multispectrum coating is just a module that was high priced, that dropped in price, not really all that exciting. Even Imperial Navy General Insignia, one of the greatest trade items in game, dropped 15%, but that's not as exciting because those were just expensive. One that is exciting is the Neurovisual input matrix. This is an ancient salvage material that I mentioned over the last few weeks because it's one of the main components of tier 3 ships, so tier 3 destroyers and tier 3 strategic cruisers, and it's just continuing to drop, right? And so what this will do is it should continue to drop prices for tier 3 destroyers and cruisers further in the next few weeks. We're talking Loki, we're talking Proteus, we're talking Jackdaw. Those types of ships are going to be getting a bit cheaper, not by the same percentage, because obviously this is just one input, but something to consider if you're trading in those ships. And plasmatic metamaterials, this is just another Moongoo that should have been in this Moongoo analysis up there. So this is what's dropping in price in the market. If we look at what is rising in price very quickly, we're seeing a bunch of ships that are spiking. So the Barghest, for example, is spiking. This is a pirate faction battleship. This, I'm guessing this is war related or just doctrine related in some of the major alliances, right? Or something major in the market has completely passed me by. The Phantasm has spiked as well. Now this is not because of the 1v1 cruiser event, because the Phantasm is not going to be allowed there. But the Phantasm could also be because this is, it could be because Anger Games, sure, but also this could be based on the raw materials going in there, or based on people using the Phantasm in abyssal space, even though the Phantasm is very niche, right? This is very, 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 very niche. So yeah, Anger Games might be the best explanation for this. Now the Stormbringer is quite popular in abyssal space. The Stormbringer, another ship that increased by 10-15% this week. You can see vastly increased volume. Now another reason for this is it's just gotten so cheap, right? It just has gotten so cheap that it is just getting more popular. You see the same thing with the Vedmag, same thing with the Dracovac. These ships are getting so much cheaper through the siege green changes that they are becoming very viable alternatives in the market again. And I think, at some point they get so cheap that people are just going to use them more in their doctrines and their abyssal runs and other activities in game, that you will see prices rising again. And we saw some of that this week. The Typhoon is another standard battleship that also increased in price quite a bit this week. Stormbringers are very popular in electric abyssals, so those were very popular in the past week as well. So I can imagine that having an impact on those as well. Burnt logic circuits is a salvage material that increased in price a lot this week, continuing the rally from the past few weeks, and that just is an indicator of people finally producing rigs again. Used in a various amounts of tier 1 rigs for structures as well. So that's burnt logic circuits. Both types of popular faction drone damage amplifiers increased in price significantly. So the Federation Navy drone damage amplifier and the Imperial Navy drone damage amplifier. If you have these lying around, now is definitely the time to sell, right? Definitely the time to sell. These are very hot right now. Also probably based on some of the new ship doctrines that are becoming more viable, right? So drone damage amplifiers absolutely hot right now. 147 on an Imperial Navy drone damage amplifier. It's been a long time since we've seen prices like this. Definitely not this year. Neodymium is the only moon goo that increased in price, interestingly enough, right? So we saw it sliding so incredibly much that this week is finally the turnaround came, right? It's definitely bucking the trend of other moon materials. I don't think it's necessarily something that indicates a complete recovery. I don't think any of the moon materials are going to recover completely. There are just too many in the game. I think this is just market speculation at this point, or maybe some large producers stocking up on inventory. This is not something that I think is indicative of a long-term production trend. But we'll see what happens with that. Raging Gamma Filament is one that is incredibly popular right now. This is definitely too late to buy in. The buy-in right now at 11.3 is somewhere right there. Unless you're day trading these, is not going to be interesting. But if you're holding these 13.9, it's definitely a good time to sell them. Now, let's finish up the Oz report today with the items that are basically gone from the market. And this gets very interesting because the Covert Ops Cloaking Device 2. For weeks, there's been some sort of market manipulation going on with Covert Ops Cloaking Device 2 because it has been gone from the market quickly. It was the price was very, very strongly pushed, right? So either somebody is building a lot of Covert Ops Cloaking ships, right? Or somebody is trying to manipulate this market. But the current price is definitely propped up. So this price right now at 5.2 million is too high if you consider blueprint plus production cost in terms of input materials. And so somebody is either propping up this market or the supply is not filling demand quickly enough. Although that is very hard to believe on a tier 2 item that should be fairly easy to produce. So, popular item, but almost gone from the market. And I'm guessing somebody or a group is for some reason manipulating this market right here. The Gila is dropping in price very, very, very quickly, right? So if you look at the last 4 months, the Gila dropped down from 350 million to now 280 million. And that it's always been popular, but that is making it even more popular. Also a result of Siege Green, because the production price for the Gila was reduced enough that it makes sense producing these again. So you know, I don't think for an item that is trading at the volume that the Gila is trading at, I think, you know, there being less than one trade day available is not a major event, right? But still, it just shows how popular right now the Gila is at this price. And I think this price reduction that we saw here, it is quite good for the game, because this ship is something that a lot of people use for various types of activities. Yeah, I think about 80% of abyssals are run in the Gila. If you look at abyssal statistics. The Stormbringer, we talked about that already. It's also almost gone. And the Vedmak is another ship. So the Vedmak and the Dracovac are the two ships that were impacted the most by Siege Green. They dropped in value 30 to 60%. And so the Vedmak at 67 million is just so cheap that it's just incredibly popular right now. You can see that on the volume. And so it's so popular that right now, I think the blueprints are starting to run out, that people aren't able to supply the market quickly enough. And that's, you know, that doesn't mean that the price will increase again. I think the price right now is about the equilibrium where it's going to be, but still very interesting that the Vedmak has dropped in price that much at 67 million. It's a fantastic ship to fly. So I think good news for people that like to blow up ships, because a lot of these ships have gotten a lot cheaper and are now much more viable. All right, that's the Oz report for June 4th, 2022. We're going to return to the regular stream, and I'll see you Oz report listeners and watchers next week.